Guys, so today I want to talk about how to date your Zippo. Take it out to the movies, you know, maybe dinner, Netflix and chill. No, clearly, that was a pretty lame joke. But what I'm talking about here is how to figure out how old your Zippo is. Zippos have markings and different things about them that will let you figure out how old it is. All right, I get this question quite often. Hey, my father gave me a Zippo, my grandfather gave me a Zippo, I was cleaning up my grandmother's house, found a Zippo. How old is it? And people always ask me, but it's really easy to figure this out on your own. People think I'm like amazing, I remember all this stuff. I don't. I remember some of the codes, some of the symbols, but generally speaking, if someone gives me a picture of a Zippo, I look it up, and you could do this at home very easily. So I actually have a couple cheat sheets which will explain some of the markings and stuff. This Zippo here, I just got in the mail today in a trade. It is currently, I believe, the oldest one in my collection, and we're gonna date that together so you can figure out, you know, some different things to look for in vintage Zippos. I also have another vintage Zippo here, again, just as an example to look up the old ones, because the newer ones are quite simple. So first, let me move this out of the way, and I'm gonna grab this piece of paper. Now, if you Google Zippo date, you're gonna get a bunch of images of this. All different colors, red, blue, black, different configurations from different years. But this is basically a cheat sheet, okay? It should be pretty self-explanatory, but these will be the symbols that you're gonna see on the bottom of your Zippo, all right? Now, the very quick reference would be this, all right? They use 3 different logos. So just by looking at the logo quickly, you could figure out the range of dates that it was made. Most modern Zippos, as you can see here, look like that. Then we have the kind of cursive type font there, and then the block letters were right in the beginning. All right, so in this example, you can see this is obviously a vintage Zippo. This one has that script type font, okay? As opposed to a modern Zippo, which has the logo with the flame above the eye. All right, and compared to the original, block letters. So those are 3 different examples for 3 different styles of Zippo. All right, so there's your quick reference guide. Again, you can find this stuff online really easy. I'm just trying to put it together for you in a video. And then this is your kind of field guide. Now, if you look from 2001 on till current day, it is the most easy way to identify a Zippo because they use the actual year. They're not using symbols. So if I grab a random Zippo here, you can see to the right of the logo is 14. So very simply put, this was made in 2014. Okay, that's why 2001 on is gonna be the easiest because that number is the year, all right? The letter that's to the left of the logo is gonna represent the month that it was made. In this case, it's C. So A is January, B is February, C is March. All right, just like that, you go through the months. So this happens to have been made in March 2014. Grab another one here. You see this one was made in 2007. And there's an A there, so it was January 2007. And here's another example. You can see this one was made in 2005. And we have the letter E. So E is the 5th letter in the alphabet. Therefore, it's the 5th month, so that would be May. So this was made in May 2005. Now, besides the case, the inserts also have markings, all right? So this particular case, the case again was E05, all right? So May 2005. The insert on here, you see the markings right here, there's a D and also 05, okay? So this was made 1 month prior to the case. This is extremely common, all right? Some people think it's not the original insert if it's not exactly the same as the case, and it's extremely common to have an insert that was made a couple months before or a couple months after the case, because they'll make a bunch of inserts and they can use them in all the different Zippos, all right? Obviously, they're universal, all right? So that's totally common. Sometimes you get lucky and they match up, sometimes they don't. I would say if it was a couple years different, it's probably not the original insert. So it's pretty easy to date your Zippo if it's fairly new. Now, if you look at this chart here, from 1986 until present day, the markings showed what month it was made as well as the year. But prior to 1986, it only showed the year, so you can't tell exactly what month it was. All right, so before 86, you could see they had the slash marks here. Going back a little further, we had slash marks in the other direction. Then we also have lines up and down, okay, and then the dots. Now the dots are the most confusing because when you have a Zippo, all right, from 1964 all the way back to 1958, it's old. That means it's scratched and it's dinged. And oftentimes when I see these old Zippos, little dings look like they could be those dots. So it becomes really confusing once you get to the dot system, especially like 1965, it's just that one dot. Because they're usually so beat up, you can't tell if it's a dot or a ding. Now, previous to 1958, they didn't have symbols to mark the year that it was made. They actually used different patents. So looking up a vintage Zippo is a little bit more complicated, but you can get into great detail. I did a quick cheat sheet, all right, on how to figure out how old the older Zippos are. So first off, let's take a look at this one before we get into the real vintage stuff. So this one has the cursive logo, right? Very clear to see that. So right off the bat, we can see it's between 1955 and 1979. But to narrow it down even further, we could see that there are 3 slash marks going to the right on the left side of the logo and 2 on the right side. 3 and 2. So looking at our little cheat sheet here, we go down, 3 on the left, 2 on the right. It's from 1977. It's that simple. Now, the one exception is Zippos made before 1958. They did not use these different symbols. They used the patent number for the Zippo design. I created a quick little cheat sheet. You can find this information on multiple websites, and this is just a simple version of this. You can get into even more detail. But there's 3 different ways you can kind of narrow down the dates of your Zippos. So first, the patent number. All right, you can see here, 1933, it just said patent pending. From 1936 to 1950, we had this patent number, 2032695. And from 1942 to 1946, they mistakenly forgot the 2 in that patent number. So this was actually printed or stamped wrong. So it was 203695. It was missing that 2 in there. And I put a note here because those are usually the black crackles. Those were the like wartime Zippos. Very, very collectible, the black crackles from like World War II. So next we have a separate patent number, 2517191 from 1950 to 57. And then also the 2517191 with patent pending were on the same models, okay? Now the second thing you can look at, which a lot of people don't know, is the type of hinge and its location. So looking at a more modern, obviously this one's already 4 years old, but I consider it modern for a Zippo. This is the most common hinge style you're gonna see. This is considered an internal 5-barrel hinge. Internal because the actual hinge pieces are on the inside of the case. They are tack welded to the inside. You can actually see the 2 weld marks, all right? But it's hidden, it's a cleaner look. Now the 5-barrel literally is how many pieces are there. What makes up this hinge is one side, I forget if it's top or bottom, one has 2, one has 3, they interlock together, and then there's a pin that goes through it if you look at the side. And that's how it stays together. Okay, that's how it hinges. So that's a 5-barrel internal hinge. As compared to the most recent Zippo I got, this is a 3-barrel internal hinge. All right, if you can kind of faintly make the markings out, but there's actually 2 welds on top next to each other, and on the bottom there's 2 welds vertically there. So very, very different. And the last thing you could do to kind of narrow down your dates is the chimney, okay? How many holes are in the chimney? So this is the old one that I have. You can see, you literally count them. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and of course it's the same on the other side. So 8 and 8 is 16. So this is a 16-hole chimney. This is the same as modern Zippos. All right, you can see the same thing. 8 on each side. Create a 16-hole chimney. Now if you look at the dates here, this is the same from 1933, 1934, and then 1947 until present day. So a lot of Zippos have that style. It was only between 1935 and 1946 that they had a 14-hole chimney. Now those are the easiest ways to identify, vintage Zippos or even antique Zippos. There's other things too, like the style of cam that's used all the way down to how it's pinned. Okay, if you look at, again, this is a 2014 example. If you look at how the wheel as well as the cam is pinned inside of the insert compared to this one, which we're going to date in a second, you can see there's a hollow pin, all right, and this is a different style for the cam as opposed to on the left. So those are other things that, experts go more deeply into to get real specific about it. So with everything I just told you, let's date the new Zippo that I just got, right? So the very first thing I do is I look at the bottom. How is it stamped? If I can get the glare to go away, we can read this. You can see right off the bat, we have that block lettering. So the block lettering tells me that it's no newer than 1954. So it was made anywhere from 1933 to 1954. And PS 1932 Zippos, there were very blocky square Zippos that have outside hinges and stuff. I don't have, unfortunately, an example to show you. Maybe one day for the collection. But yeah, I mean, I'm just showing you what I got in front of me. So the block letters tell me 1933 to 1954, okay? If we look further, we could see a patent number on the bottom. And the patent number on this one is 2032695, all right? So that tells me now that it is between 1936 and 1950, okay? Now we look at the hinge. In this particular case, we have a 3-barrel hinge, and it is internal. So an internal 3-barrel hinge brings it to 1943 to 1948. Okay, getting closer. Still a little bit of a chunk there of years. The last thing is the chimney, and as we saw before, or chimney, or chimney, any way you say it, 8 on each side, making it a 16-hole chimney. So that tells me 1947 onward. So I've narrowed down between 1947 and 1948 because of the hinge. Now for me, that's good enough. Looking at the different style of pins and all that kind of stuff, that's really getting deep into it. And off the top of my head, I do not remember. I'd have to look it up further. And there's plenty of awesome websites that have all this information I'm giving you. I'm just trying to squeeze it into one quick little video that you guys can reference in the future. So if you get an old Zippo, first thing you want to do, go onto Google, just type in Zippo date, click on Google Images, and you'll get a ton of different websites with different versions of this, but it's all the same information. All right, in fact, I'm going to scroll here. You can pause anywhere you want, grab your old Zippos, grab them out of the junk drawer, ask your grandparents for them, and look them up. And you can see when they were made. So for collectors, this is a huge deal. Now, Zippo didn't put dates on the bottom of their Zippos, you know, to make them collectible. It happened to make them easy to collect. Anything that's dated or has different marks, different, you know, periods of time that can be dated, that makes collecting a lot easier, and it also gives people a different idea of values. But the purpose of having a date on the Zippo is for Zippo's quality control. So let's say they make a big old batch of Zippos and the wheel's loose or something, you know, and they get like 10 different people that complain. And they ask the people, all right, well, what are the markings on the Zippo? And they say, okay, well, it was from 2014, and 9 out of 10 of those people said it's from 2014 and around August, let's just say. Then they can kind of narrow that down and say, well, maybe something happened during the assembly at that. That's why a lot of different companies date things. Sometimes on a piece of plastic, you know, you'll see like a couple little mini clocks, which is really random, right? Well, that's actually set in the mold to show when that was made, so they can pinpoint any kind of problems in quality control. So pretty cool, but for us collectors, obviously it gives us a way to put values on the Zippos, because without these dates, this 2014 Zippo and this 1947/1948 Zippo look a lot like each other. How would you know the difference, right? This one's a little bit more rounded, but very, very slight. Obviously the hinge, but you wouldn't really know. But because of the dating, this one has a lot more value than this one. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to show that to you guys. Also, just as a quick side, being in 1947/1948, I got this in a trade. A person wanted, they had this Zippo, and obviously it doesn't work because it has no flint or guts. It needs a wick, the rayon balls, everything. The flint tube obviously is part of the case here, but it's missing the screw, the spring, and the spacer. I did try a random insert here. This one is from 2006, it looks like. And I know everything will go in here. The only thing I was questioning is the screw, the threading on the older ones, and it does work. This screw does work with the older flint tube. All right, so I will probably take this, which was a spare insert I had, and I'm gonna gut this, take all the parts basically, and be able to make this 1947/48 functional. So I may or may not carry that. But yeah, and also to take a quick note, you can see the case markings on this insert also have the same patent number. All right, so that shows that this is the original case, or at least most likely the original case to the Zippo, because it matches. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to do a video talking about this. I don't know if I ever did one. If I did, it was so long ago, I don't even remember. But hopefully this helps you to figure out how old your Zippos are. And I just want to say real quick, if this is interesting to you and you want to get into an affordable hobby, I use air quotes there because once you get real deep into it, you're going to want some of the more rare ones, which could be costly. But I have to say Zippos as a whole, as far as collectibles, they're really inexpensive. I mean, buying a used Zippo, you can spend anywhere from $1 or $2 at a garage sale or on eBay for like a real used one, all the way up to, let's say, 50 bucks. In the $1 to $50 range, there are thousands and thousands of Zippos. And unlike knives, the old Zippo works just as good as the new Zippo. And the $5 Zippo works just as good as the $50 Zippo. Whereas, like, you know, with knives, you buy a bunch of cheap knives, you're like, okay, that's cool, but I really want to try a $400 knife. Well, guess what? The $5 Zippo works the same as the $500 Zippo. The only difference is how rare it is. That's really the only thing that's going to be, you know, making these other Zippos cost more. Of course, there's a couple ones that actually have different materials, like there's a titanium Zippo that's out there that I had at one point that's worth a lot more money right now. Obviously, there's a sterling silver Zippo. There's a 24 karat gold Zippo, which most of us watching will never have. But generally speaking, 99.9% of Zippos are all the same. They function the same, they just have different looks, different designs, different coatings, and they're really, really fun to collect, but it can be a very affordable hobby. If you want to just jump in and have an instant collection, you can hop on eBay. You see lots all the time. When I say lots, I mean it's literally like a small collection for sale at once. And it might be like 10 different Zippos that are used just like randomly, or sometimes people have a theme. And you'll get anywhere from like $20 to 50 bucks or more. Sometimes you'll see a whole collection, 100 Zippos for like 300 bucks or whatever it is. But if you compare it to like knife collecting, it is a lot more affordable than knives. And like I said, the quality is always going to be there. It's always going to be the same functional Zippo. The insert on the $5 one works exactly the same. It's probably the exact same insert as the $500 one. So yeah, I mean, it's a really fun, cool hobby. But that's it. Let me know down in the comment section if you collect Zippos. If you do, how many do you have? I know you're wondering how many I have. I don't know. If I had to guess, an accurate guess would probably be like around 50 to 60, maybe in that range. I probably have like 20 or 30 that just mean something to me, whether they were gifts from certain people or just certain, you know, rare ones that I don't want to get rid of. But for the most part, I just have a bunch that I just rotate through and I use all the time. So it's just fun. And obviously, there's a certain part of my life that I got really into Zippo tricks. Yes, I know you want more of those videos too, perhaps in the future. Just like the battle songs, it's just something I haven't really had time in the last couple of years to do, regretfully, but hopefully as things change and progress in the future, I will have more free time to do stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So all about Zippos. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully it helped you guys out. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you soon.